Volume 1 of Stranger Things Season 5 is now streaming on Netflix, so here's my review of Stranger Things Season 5, Volume 1. It's been a week since the show premiered, so this review will contain spoilers. If you have not seen the first 4 episodes of the new season, I will be talking about what happens in the show. It's been 18 months after Vecna tore multiple gateways to the Upside Down in Hawkins. Now the entire town is in quarantine, the military has set up base both in Hawkins and in the Upside Down, while our heroes, still recovering from the events of last season, prepare to deal with their unfinished Vecna business, who they believe is still alive somewhere in the Upside Down. I'm gonna first talk about the stuff I liked, followed by the stuff I didn't really like, and some theories and speculations I have for the last half of the show. First up, the positives. What I really liked about this season is that there's a lot of focus on Will Byers this time around. I like that Will is a more active character. He's actually getting stuff done now after being kind of a damsel for most of his time on the show. A lot of the previous seasons were all about saving Will, but now I think it's really cool that he gets to join in and actually contribute and do a little bit of the saving himself. I also really love the friendship he forms with Robin. It just makes sense that those two would get along so well. Robin is great. She's like the older sister Will never had, and I love that it's through her that Will finds himself. She's also responsible for a really epic moment at the end of the first volume, which we will touch on in a little while. I honestly don't get where the hate for Robin's character is coming from, because I've seen a couple comments online saying that they found her annoying. To that I say, have we been watching the same show? Because I absolutely love Robin. She's been one of my favorites since season 3, and she's always been this chaotic ball of energy who can't stop talking, and I love her for it. Maya Hawke is great as this character. Why do you think she got cast as Anxiety? Speaking of casts, I think everyone here does a great job nearly 10 years in, and the cast is still giving us an all-star performance, although I will say, it is pretty jarring to see these full-grown adults play teenagers. I know this isn't the first time we've seen 20-year-olds play high schoolers, because it's been done a lot, looking at you, Spider-Man, but I think it's because we've actually seen these kids as teenagers, and when you look at how much they've aged, it's kinda hard to believe that it's canonically only been 4 years since the first season, because it's clearly been a decade. But I will say, there's this really great scene near the end of Volume 1 where Mike and the other original cast members lead these kids through a Demogorgon battlefield, and I thought that was such a great way to show how much these characters have grown. They're no longer the scared kids, they're the protectors now. I'm not that much older than the cast, there's like a 3 to 5 year age gap here, but you know, I thought to myself, these kids are all grown up. In a strange way, I feel like I've grown up with them too, because I was a teenager when this show started. Now let's talk about that big cliffhanger ending. Will has powers. I thought the reveal was great. At this point in the show, Vecna has our heroes beat, and just when all hope seemed lost, Will goes full-on superhero and saves everyone. I love how his acceptance of himself is juxtaposed with Robin's speech and moments that remind him of who he is presented to him in Super 8 film reels, just like how Robin saw herself through Super 8 film reels as well. I think it's a powerful moment for him, and it'll be interesting to see how the team dynamic changes, as well as how he comes into play in the battle against Vecna. Now that we've discussed the positives, let's talk about some of the things I wasn't really a fan of from this season. Dustin is my favorite Stranger Things character, but I do feel that the way they wrote him in this season is a little off. I get that he's grieving and people deal with this stuff differently, but he is reckless this season. I know that growing up can be ugly sometimes, and maybe that once optimistic kid really is gone, but this is not a good look on Dustin, man. All this recklessness, all this angst, and for what? For Eddie? I'm pretty sure this is a really hot take because the internet absolutely loves this character, but I wasn't the biggest fan of Eddie. I thought he was real cringe, to be honest with you. Maybe it's because when season 4 came out, I was already in my 20s, and a lot of the people who watched season 4 were teenagers, and maybe that's why a lot of them found solace in a character like Eddie, the ultimate outcast, but I just did not vibe with him. Like, as a fellow nerdy high school kid who grew up to be a very nerdy adult, respectfully, I don't think I would have been friends with the guy. That doesn't mean I was on Jason's side the whole time and that I agree with his bullying, but I'm just saying, he was kind of a bad influence. And I get that the whole point of his character is to not judge a book by its cover, but dude, you're 20 years old, still in high school, hanging out with kids, selling drugs to minors like Chrissy? No offense, but is this really the guy Dustin is sad about? I think I'm one of the few people who didn't cry when he died, cause yeah, it's sad, but it's not Bob Newby or Alexi sad. Don't get me wrong, of course I want to see his name get cleared, it's only right that he gets at least that, but I'm just saying, Is this really the hill Dustin wants to die on? Another thing I didn't really like was the resurgence of the Steve, Nancy, and Jonathan love triangle. It has its moments, but I just feel like it's a wee bit forced this time around. And one last negative before we jump into my theories and speculations, I found that some of the dialogue was bad. Like, I get what they were going for, but some of these lines were just borderline Riverdale-esque.
Remember that time my sister kicked your balls so hard you limped for a week? Yeah, if you touch Dustin again, I'll kick them so hard they'll pop like water balloons.
I say kick away. Stop this meathead from reproducing and further infecting the world with his unique brand of idiocy.
Did you finally hit dick?
Hit the dick. Yep. Let's just hope it's not too hard.
If it is, I'll soften it.
Now that we've discussed both positives and negatives, let's talk about some of my theories for the back half of the season. A few years ago when Stranger Things 4 came out, I made a video talking about how time travel could be integrated into the final season of Stranger Things. Because if you remember, they revealed last season that the Upside Down is stuck in 1983, specifically on the day Will Byers disappeared. Now, having seen the first 4 episodes of Season 5, I still think that time travel is coming. There were multiple references to time travel sprinkled throughout the first few episodes. Of course, there's the obvious nods to Back to the Future and A Wrinkle in Time, but then there are the more subtle ones, like how they were talking about the Einstein-Rosen bridge in Mr. Clark's class. For those of you who don't know, an Einstein-Rosen bridge is a wormhole, basically a shortcut through space and time. I personally think that the Upside Down might be the Einstein-Rosen bridge they used to enter from one point in time and exit through another, like, say, the past. Kinda like how the Avengers used the quantum realm to go back in time. And I'm just saying, they already have a modified car in the Upside Down, equipped with trackers and whatnot, so what's not to say that Steve's Buick is our stand-in for the DeLorean? Am I reaching here? I guess you can say only time will tell. Speaking of Steve, let's talk about who I think is gonna die this season, and obviously number 1 on my chopping board is Steve Harrington. They're trying to trick us by showing us that Jonathan has a ring. They want us to think that Jonathan is not gonna be able to propose to Nancy, and it's gonna be real sad, but I think Steve is gonna pull an Armageddon-style switcheroo and sacrifice himself to save Jonathan. I think it makes sense, and it'll be extra sad to see Dustin's reaction because they've been building up a lot of tension between these two, and I think it's all gonna lead to Dustin holding Steve's dead body in his hands and finally, for the first time ever, admit to Steve that he was wrong. As for the original party members, I think all of them are gonna live. But I can totally see Vecna using Mike to bait Will. But if Vecna's going to kill anyone to really get Will mad, I think Joyce would cause the most damage, I'm just saying. Other than Steve Harrington, I think the next big death is Eleven. There's a scene from this season where Hopper and Eleven have a heart-to-heart in the Upside Down, and Hopper goes on about how he can't lose her. He's already lost one daughter, and he's scared to lose 11. One might think that this is a setup for Hopper to die, but I don't think they're gonna hit us with another Hopper death scene because they already did that in Season 3. Yeah, it was a fake out, but how many times can you really get away with something like that? I think 11 is gonna die. Call me crazy, but I also think we're gonna get a flash forward to the future, technically the present day, and catch up with these characters. We're gonna see grown-up versions of the original party. Hopper and Joyce are either super old or super dead because, let's face it, they were middle-aged in the 80s and it's been 40 or so years ago. But yeah, I think the world will return to a somewhat normal version of itself. It's peacetime and we see these friends hang out and reminisce about their time in Hawkins. And just when we think it's all over, we get a little shot that tells us that some things will just remain strange for the town of Hawkins. And we cut to titles! Overall, I'm really liking this season so far. Sure, there's a couple nitpicks here and there, but I still love this show. I don't think I'll ever understand how some people have already dropped this show because it's really good. And I can't wait to see how it all ends. But what about you guys? What did you think of the first half of Stranger Things Season 5?